Hello friends, today we are going to discuss John Keats's poem To Autumn. This is an ode. An ode is a type of lyrical poem that is addressed to someone. This poem has been addressed to the autumn season. This is the maturest poem from John Keats. This form of poem is called the ode because, as I have already told you, because this is addressed to someone. The ode is addressed to the autumn season. The autumn season extends in England from September to November. The autumn season comes after the summer, which is a pleasant season, and the autumn is followed by the winter, which is a hard season. So metaphorically, the autumn is the end of everything. For example, old age may be called the autumn of one's life. So normally speaking, the autumn season is not a very pleasant season. The beauty of the poem lies in the fact that the poet comes to enjoy things like the autumn. This poem has 3 stanzas. Each stanza has 11 lines in the iambic pentameter. So I recite the first stanza for you, and then I will explain the first stanza for you. Seasons of mist and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run, to bend with apples the most cottage trees, and fill all fruit with ripeness to the core, to swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells with a sweet kernel, to set budding more and still more later flower for the bees, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has overbrimmed their clammy shells. Now I explain this first stanza. The poet welcomes the autumn season, which is full of mists and ripe fruits. The autumn plans with the sun how to make every fruit ripe, heavy and sweet. The apple trees are covered with moss. How to make apples heavier so that every tree bends down with the weight of apples. There are grapevines going round the roof of the hut. How to make grapes sweeter and heavier. The season wants the innermost, means the core of every tree or vine to be full and ripe, and therefore sweet. Autumn wants to make the gourd to swell, means fatten. The season makes the hazel shell plump, means fat. The core of every fruit is ripe and sweet. While the flowers are turning into fruits, the autumn sets budding more and more. The buds are so much abundant that the bees are led to think the nectar is never going to finish. The bees are led to believe that the warm days of autumn will never come to an end. The beehives are already overflowing with honey. The images drawn in this stanza are quite sensuous and appeal to all the 5 senses of our body. The eyes are pleased to look at the ripe fruits. The tongue is watering because of sweet and ripe fruits. The humming of the bees is pleasant to the ears. The birds and the fruits give us a good smell, and the warmth is soothing. In this way, the second stanza now begins with the rhetoric. And this is the rhetoric question, and now I recite for you the second stanza. Who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store? Sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on a granary floor. thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind, or on a half reaped furrow sound asleep, drowsed with the fume of poppies, while thy hook spares the next swath and all its twined flowers, and sometimes like a gleaner thou dost keep steady thy leaden head across a brook, or by a cedar press with patient look thou watchest the last oozings hours by hours. The second stanza recitation ends. As I was talking, that this second stanza begins with the rhetoric, the question. Everyone has, uh, I mean, in this stanza, the autumn season is personified as a woman in the barn. Those who go farther in the fields see the autumn season. Now, autumn season is personified as a woman. Uh, Everyone sees the autumn season sitting in the granary. She is winnowing the grain from the chaff. Her hair is softly lifted by the winnowing wind. In the third image, she is depicted as a reaper. The reaper is found half asleep by the intoxicating smell of the poppies of opium. In the next image, autumn is depicted as a gleaner, keeping a basket on her head. The basket is full of fruits. She has to make her balance while crossing a small river. This image is very captivating. We may also see the autumn season in the form of cedar maker who is watching every drop coming out of the cedar press. This is patience. And patience is something which comes after maturity. Maturity gives us the ability to see the beauties of life. The last stanza gives our imagination a jerk. We have been appreciating the beauties of the autumn season. But suddenly, what happens? I recite for you the third stanza and then I will come back to it. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. While barred clouds bloom the soft dying day and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue, then in a wailful choir the small gnats mourn among the river shallows, borne aloft or sinking as the light wind lives or dies, and full grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bourne, hedge crickets sing, and now with the treble soft the red breast whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows twitter in the skies. So suddenly the poet turns back to the beauties of the spring season. In the first two stanzas, he has explained for us the beauties of the autumn season. But now, why does he go back to the spring season? This question is somewhat disturbing, perplexing, because the poet has developed the ability to see the positivity of the autumn season. And somehow the poet has not yet reconciled to his fate. He is missing the songs of the spring season, and it's true that the autumn season has got its own music, its own beauties. The poet has acquired maturity now, and this maturity has allowed him to discover the songs of the autumn season. The sun is setting. The barred clouds make a pleasant scene. The sunlight touches the stubble of the harvested fields. The golden rays of the sun touching the stubble make such a feast for eyes. At the same time, the gnats are swarming in the sky. The gnats make such sound that it sounds like a mourning, sad song. The swallows now go up in the sky, now touching the ground as the breeze dies, and now touching the sky as the breeze lives. The lambs are bleating from their pen on the hill. The crickets in the hedge make a mournful choir. The redbreast, which is a bird, is chirping in the sky as it is returning to its nest, while the swallows are twittering in the sky. So, autumn has its own beauties, and this the poet has learnt after many bitter experiences of life, and this is what romanticism is. Thank you, friends.